you perceive that everyone just sees all the work that you're doing, right? From the top, from the CEO to the VP of engineering to the CTO, they'd all just check your tickets all the time, right? All the tasks that you're doing. But the reality is that nobody has time for that.
Your focus these days has been very much on helping software engineers become great engineering leaders. What brought you to that? How did you get to that point where that's what is your focus?
Yeah, so I started my career as engineer around 11, 12 years ago, and I'm a self-taught engineer. I don't have a CS degree, and in my career, I grew from engineer then to senior, then to team lead, engineering manager, um, head of engineering, VP of engineering, and then CTO. And there are two reasons why I try to, at the moment, help as many people to be great engineering leaders. And the first one is when I became a manager, I made so many mistakes, a lot of mistakes that I could potentially avoid if I would have either a good mentorship or good resources like books, newsletters, courses, tutorials, and so on. But back in the day, there weren't like a lot of resources that we have at this time. And I naturally made a lot of mistakes. And I currently want to spare some of the mistakes to people who are reading my newsletter, who are either joining my course and so on, or maybe reading my LinkedIn posts, etc. And the second thing is, as soon as I grew from engineering manager to head of engineering, and then also became a VP of engineering, I started thinking what is going to be the next goal for me in my engineering career, and the next step would be CTO, would be kind of like the last step in the engineering industry, right? And myself, I always need some challenges, always need some goals in order to be driven and motivated to progress and move forward. So that's why kind of like I thought, okay, I like to help others inside my organization, inside my team, cross team, and so on. And I could also help like others, in general across the world as well. So that's how I started with LinkedIn posts, actively posting on LinkedIn, writing a newsletter, and also teaching the course where I help engineers to grow to lead roles. So those two things were kind of like the motivating factors for me.
Hi, that's cool. You mentioned right at the beginning there that you didn't do a CS degree. There's always this topic and discussion going on in the community about, do you need a CS degree? Do you not need a CS degree? I mean, given where you are and that you've been that VP engineer CTO, you can clearly say that you don't need it. You've succeeded without it. But if you didn't do a CS degree, what was the thing that brought you into software engineering? How did you find your way from whatever you were doing before to becoming a software engineer?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And my colleagues, my fellow classmates in school, are surprised these days when they hear that I'm actually in the engineering industry. And because the reason is in high school and also primary school, I didn't really enjoy programming. I didn't like programming. Kind of like the first steps into programming was with Java, but it was very kind of like writing boilerplate and kind of like traversing characters. And that's something that I didn't really enjoy back in the day. I started to enjoy programming when I started to learn HTML, CSS, and then JavaScript. And the reason is that I'm quite a visual learner, and I needed some sort of like a feedback, especially on the screen. And you can do a lot of stuff, a lot of cool things with JavaScript. And what really brought me and what really excited me about programming was creating something with code that you can visualize on the screen, like animations, like getting the data and show it on the screen. I was a big fan of also libraries like GSAP, Animate.css. I enjoyed building kind of like nice visual animations that were kind of exciting and so on. And after that, I was kind of like um, I was hooked into programming, and I learned the days and nights. I learned then also PHP, WordPress, C Sharp, and so on, and never stopped learning after that.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I was the same. It was so much more satisfying as soon as I could start putting something on the screen and seeing something visual. So for me and people in similar age to me, that was when we could start creating graphics and building a computer game. That's why so many of us learned at the time through computer games. So as the web and HTML and JavaScript and CSS became available, that became so much easier. But it's great, isn't it? You can get that immediate visual feedback and see something you're doing rather than processing a bit of data and having it chuck out an answer that isn't that exciting when you're beginning, is it? Cool. So now you're doing course and you're doing your email newsletter. Which is the primary focus? And what's a good way for people that are wanting to learn from you of how to become or how to transition from an engineer to a leader? Where should they start? Should they look at the course or the newsletter?
Yeah, obviously, the newsletter would be the first thing to go. There's a lot of topics that helps everyone to become great engineering leader. There's also a learning track which is specifically designed for people that want to become leaders. So definitely, my newsletter would be the first thing to check. But also, the number one thing with courses, and especially with the cohort-based courses, is especially for people that want to learn inside a group. Not everyone is very kind of like how do I say, self-accountable, and will learn in isolation, as we have talked before. It's you know group-based learning is really great. You meet like-minded people. You get to know people that are on similar paths than you are. And then one of the perks that I offer as well is the paid subscription to the newsletter. So everyone who joins the course also gets automatically the paid subscription. So they get the access to all the articles, so they can dive deeper as well themselves. So it's all up to everyone individually. Obviously, I first recommend the newsletter, but I understand that not everyone is the same. I'm more of a visual learner. Maybe you are more of a how do I say, you learn more from reading. Maybe another person learns more from watching tutorials. Another person learns more from group of people working together, and so on. We are all different. So um, yeah, we go through a lot of different topics that are great for engineers to get and learn what to do and how to actually progress in their careers, especially if they want to go to lead roles.
Yeah, I think the accountability on a course is something that so many people miss and is so valuable. And that's why they're so worthwhile, because there isn't much these days that you can't find the information on the internet, or you can't buy a book about it, or you can't get that information from some other way. But the value of the course is that all that information has been curated and you've got that collective people. Same as when we talk about universities, there's a lot of criticism now of, what's the point of going to Harvard for an MBA? You can buy the same course books elsewhere. You could spend several $100s instead of $100,000 getting the information. But it's not just information, is it? It's that accountability. It's that having to turn up and do the work. That somebody holding sessions, that dedicating the time to it. That networking effect as well. The people you can talk to and you can meet and you can then build those relationships with. Cool. So on the course, you talk about several topics, and we've been through a quick list of what's listed on the course page. It's okay. I wanted to pick through those in time and ask you a few questions about what people can do. So not the full course contents. People should sign up for that if you're interested. But let's start with credibility. What are a few tips that people should use to build credibility in the industry as a software engineer?
Yeah, a lot of people focus, especially engineers, focus on fine details that they need to get better in their craft in general, right? But that's only like 50% of the things that are going to help you to progress forward in your career. And credibility consists of two things. One is your skills, and the second one is the way people perceive you. And everyone that has done any freelance projects, work as either consultant or a contractor, you understand how important it is that you develop a great reputation of yourself. That's how you get more projects, right? And similar it is in any kind of organization and company. You need to have good reputation about yourself. You need to be reliable. You need to be proactive. You need to make stuff happen. You need to get things done. And after you do this consistently, you will be able to get more opportunities, which are going to be provided to you. So you need to focus on both the things. You asked me about giving tips about credibility. So the first one is obviously build up your skills. I recommend focusing on being an expert in one thing, being the go-to person, for example, in front end, maybe on back end, maybe with Python, maybe with React, Angular, and so on. Be known for something, for one thing, and then develop a broad knowledge on a lot of different topics, like also a product, business-minded, quality assurance. If you're a front-end expert, then also develop some decent knowledge on back-end as well. And then you will have that, and then you will have also depth, and also the spectrum, which is quite broad as well. And the second thing, which we're developing, the way people perceive you, you need to be reliable. You need to be someone that you would love to work with. You need to, one thing that also is very important is you need to build trust with others, which is admitting mistakes. We are never 100% right all the time in our industry, as you know. Consistency is very important. Predictability. Long-term good work is a lot more important than short-term good work. And also, as I mentioned, being proactive. And also, as we both know, writing online, public speaking, sharing your knowledge either via blog posts, newsletters, that goes a long way in people having a good, perceive you in a good way.
Cool. So you mentioned freelance work there. Is that something you advise people to do? I think it's played quite a key part in your background, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, freelance work has been my secret to be able to grow from engineer all the way to CTO. And the reason was that I learned a lot of skills that a lot of engineers don't learn just by doing their work, right? You need to be great at communicating. You need to be good at managing expectations. I like to say that you can do the best work in the world, but if you don't manage expectations the right way, it won't be perceived that way, unfortunately. So you learn a lot about planning, time management, just overall making sure that the project is going to get done on time, and your client is going to be happy with it. Especially working with non-technical clients, that's something that I highly recommend to everyone, because you need to speak in a way that resonates with them. You can't just talk about React, you can't just talk about Angular or maybe APIs or Python. Okay, I'm using this database and so on, but you need to really, find out what do they want to hear, what kind of business pain points do they have, what is the motivation behind the ask. And then a lot of times what happens is that the first thing that they think that they may need is actually the wrong thing. You need to be some sort of like a consultant and offer the right solution for them. So you need to really investigate the why behind it and find out the reasons why they actually need it and propose that. You need to sell it as well. You need to know how to sell this ask and kind of convince them that is the right decision to move forward. And if you do this correctly, you also implement it correctly, and you do it with the right quality, timely, they will see that it's a right decision. You will get unlimited projects after.
Yeah, so you really need to learn to speak their language, don't you? And to speak about what they care about, what are their hopes and dreams, what are they trying to achieve from the project, to really understand them. And, as you say, get hold of their requirements and understand it. Years ago, when I started my first business, I came across a sales book that talks about when you're selling, you should be asking questions, and capturing requirements is the same, because the book used the example that if you're in a hardware store and somebody comes in to buy a power drill, they don't want a power drill. Mm-hmm. They have a problem they want to solve. They want to put up a shelf, or they want to install something in their house, and they think that the solution is a power drill, but it might not be. They might need something else, or they might want a power drill and some drill bits and a bunch of other things. And so by asking them questions and establishing what problem they're trying to solve, you can then guide them to the right solution, which is what good sales should be. And it's also crucial for software, isn't it? We want to capture the requirements and build the right solution, because building great software that solves a long problem, you've got an unhappy customer, haven't you?
Yeah, funny that you mentioned the electrical drill because that's exactly what I was buying last week, and I made a mistake of buying the not strong enough drill, and I asked the salesman about, hey, is this drill good enough for drilling the holes in a wall? But what actually happened was that I brought it home and I tried to drill it and it wasn't strong enough, so I needed to go back and I needed to buy a different one. So that's a great example.
Yeah, it is, and I think it works in so many ways because it also demonstrates that you can be more successful. If he talked to you properly, he could have sold you a more powerful one, could have sold you the correct drill bits, could have maybe sold you, I don't know, whatever timber you want for your shelf or whatever else goes with your project. And it's a great chance to then become a trusted advisor, which again, when you're freelance, you want that trusted advisor status, don't we? You
Yeah.
talked about the trust and your reputation, and that's how you get more work. Um, on that note, a lot of software engineers, I can imagine as you were talking, saying, my work speaks for itself. I shouldn't have
Mhm.
to do all these things. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's a it's a very how to say optimistic way of looking at it, you know. And I like to say, you know, good work consists not only of implementation, but it also consists of making it visible. So you can do the best work in the world, but if nobody knows about it, it's not going to be perceived that way. Unfortunately, similar is with newsletter writing, with with anything that you're doing. Is you can write the best thing, or you can be the best engineer in the world, but if nobody would know that, it unfortunately won't be perceived that way. So both the things are very important. If you do good work, you need to also share it with others. You need to find ways to share the great work that you did. So a good solution to this would be, you know, you do something great, then you share it either via learning sessions, either via organize a talk, maybe on a local meetup or maybe a conference or something like, and you share that great work. You need to find ways to share how amazing you are. If you don't do that, if you're not your number one cheerleader, who is going to be? You know, that's what I like to say. So yeah, it's really important to not believe just that they're doing good work and hoping that everyone is going to see it. Uh, that doesn't work. You need to actively take ownership of what you're doing, and your manager sees like 60 or maybe 40% of what you're doing, 30%. And when it goes to leadership team, they see less and less and less. So nobody really knows like on the top exactly that you did this particular thing, you did this. You need to find ways to showcase that you're doing great work. Yeah, visibility goes a long way.
Yeah, I like what you said about, be your own cheerleader because no one else is as invested in your career as you are. No one else cares as much about you as you do. And it sounds a little bit selfish, but it's very true. You've got to recognize it. Your manager is wandering around worried about their career, worried about whether or not they're going to get laid off, worried about whether or not they're going to hit their deadlines, whether or not they've got all their own worries, all their own baggage because they're a human being just like you are. So much as their job, and if they're doing it well, is to care about you and think about you, they've got their own baggage. They're never going to be caring about you as much as you care about yourself. So being your own cheerleader and promoting it and so is, no one else is as invested. So I was going to say one really simple thing you can do as well, which a lot of people miss, is just send out an email at the end of each week. This is my
Mhm.
accomplishments. Drop it to your manager, and again potentially do it with your team. It's like, hey, 3 cool things I learned this week that might be useful to you.
Yeah.
A quick email to your team can be really useful and share that stuff. And the accomplishments, you talk about this on your course, don't you, with a brag document and advise people to do this. So what would you advise at keeping a brag document and what are the benefits of it?
Yeah, you nailed it with writing down, and that especially is one of the reasons is because your manager doesn't know exactly what you're doing on your day to day. Maybe they have 40%, 50%. They might know, but they don't know all the great things that you're doing. And brag list is a great way to make sure that you are showcasing all of the efforts, all of the great things that you're doing. I recommend to what you mentioned every week, or you can also do it as soon as it happens. you note down the win that you achieved. And then what I also recommend is to share it with your manager on your one-to-one meeting. And then obviously, of course, when there is a performance review meeting, you want to share all of the list of wins that you have achieved in this particular either quarter or this particular from and to dates. Um, so who else is going to know if not you, right? So you can expect that your manager is just going to automatically promote you, but they don't even see all the things that you did, right? Um, Hence, yeah, I also made that mistake, and I thought that I will just everyone sees, as well, when you're an engineer and when you're working on tasks and then when you're working on specific features, you have that kind of perseverance that you perceive that everyone just sees all the work that you're doing, right? From the top, from the CEO to the VP of engineering to the CTO, they all just check your tickets all the time, right? All the tasks that you're doing. But the reality is that nobody has time for that. They check the story points, they check the amount of tasks that you have done this sprint, but the more nobody really checks that. They're all worried about the problems, so all worried about business, organizational challenges, and so on. So keeping a brag list ensures exactly what we were talking about, that right people knows exactly what you have done, what you have achieved, and how you have contributed, and that you are good enough to take that next step in your career. One other thing I will also mention is obviously imposter syndrome is very huge in our industry, and I feel an imposter every now and then. You might feel it as well when you're doing something new, and if you have a list of wins that you have actually achieved throughout a specific time frame, you feel a lot less as an imposter. You just check, okay, this is what I achieved. Okay, I onboarded this engineer. I finished this particular project. That was a really hard project that I finished. I finished that specific course. I helped that specific team to achieve success on that project, and then we go through and see, okay, I'm not doing so bad, right? So that gives you that self confidence in the time of need, and we all have ups and downs in everyday life. So when you have downs, you just check the list of wins, and it will motivate you to get better.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, certainly speaking personally, I feel a bit of imposter syndrome almost every single day. And in a way, I like that, because if I'm not feeling that, I'm staying in my comfort zone. I'm not pushing myself. I'm not learning something new. I'm not trying to grow. So it's a fine balance between having it be too much and uncomfortable and finding that just enough so that I'm growing and stretching yourself. One other thing that I really wanted to highlight about drawing up the brag list and sharing it regularly is, in a big organization, if you want to get promoted, you need your manager's support, and they need their manager's support for it. So if you're regularly sharing that email of like 3 things we accomplished this week, and particularly if you share just as you succeed on a particularly tricky thing or key project, send around hey, we did this, we achieved this is the outcome. Focus on the outcome, not the database, not the technology, but how it helped the business. That's very easy emails for your manager to then share with their manager, for them to share with their peers. Again, if you write it in such a way that it's very easy for them to distribute, it's very easy for them to hit reply, say, congratulations everyone, and for CC and their boss. And again, it's part of managing upwards, and it's part of making it just very easy for everyone to see what you're doing, being your own cheerleader, and make it easy for your manager to. And again, in your one-to-ones, you can encourage them, say, hey, when you see one of these successes, please share it with your peers, share it with your boss. Again, useful trick for managing it and making sure you're being your own cheerleader.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome what you mentioned. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Gregor. Talking about your one-to-ones, the other thing you talk about is how to let your manager know your goal and inspirations. So what are the kind of things that you focus on in that?
Yeah, one of the things that I made a mistake, especially as a senior software engineer, is I was kind of stuck. I didn't know exactly where should I grow. Should I grow into architecture? Should I grow into being a manager? Or should I continue to grow in the IC space? And obviously, it's important that that you have some sort of an idea where you wish to grow. But at the same time, you need to tell your manager as well. You need to tell, first of all, yeah, you want to find out where you want to grow, and it doesn't need to be 100% that certain. You just need to have some sort of like a next goal for you. And after that, you need to tell your manager about it. Okay, I want to become a team lead because of this, and that. I want to become a tech lead. I want to grow to become an architect, and so on. And the reason is that if you don't do that, your manager is not going to be able to put you in a position to showcase the skills needed. Same things as we are talking about brag list, and they are not actually seeing all the work that you're doing. Is the same in sharing your goals and aspirations. They're not a mind reader, and me personally, I like to ask every person that reports to me about, okay, what are your goals, where do you want to grow in your career, but not every manager is like that. So you want to do that because they will have, even if they might not provide you opportunities immediately, they will be able to have you in your head, and maybe if there's going to be an opportunity for you to showcase the skills needed, they will be thinking about you. So yeah, you should do that. You should do that as soon as possible. One trick that I would like to share is just overall, have some, when you share your goal and aspiration, have some back it up with some data, especially with, okay, I read this book, I'm doing this already. I'm attending this course, for example. You're attending my course, and at the same time you're trying to grow to become a team lead or a tech lead, and so on. You listen to this podcasts, you read this particular books, and so on. And at the same time, you want to be excited as well. You don't want to just share like in a way that there's no emotion behind it, but you want to share it in a way that people feel excited when you talk about it. You feel excited about it. So I recommend create like a pitch where when you're sharing that with your manager, and you actually create, you wrote it down, what are you going to say, and so on. So that would be my tip for that.
Yeah, I love that approach. And you've hit on a key part there. The manager is not a mind reader. And adding to that, managers are people. We make mistakes just like anything else. Some managers are new to it. They're not necessarily aware of how they should be helping you. They're not necessarily aware of how they can help you. So again, feel free to manage up. That doesn't mean you have to be assertive and pig-headed about it, but you can go into your manager and say, in my one-to-one, I want to talk about my career goals and aspirations this week. Here are some of the things I want to achieve. As you said, the data-driven approach, back it up with something. And then make a clear ask. I would like you to help me achieve this goal. Can you? And then ask to be put on a suitable budget, or ask for advice about how you navigate the organization. But have that clear ask and manage your manager to a certain extent, because much as they may know what they should be doing, they've got their own hopes, fears, dreams, concerns, or maybe their own skill issues that they're working through themselves.
Yeah.
So make it easy for people to help you.
One thing is also that is very, very great if you can map what your goals and aspirations to the problems that your manager is having. And you mentioned this, and I want to share an example on this, which is exactly like if your manager is having a problem, like if they are managing too many teams, you can say like, hey, I would love to relieve some of the burden that you're facing, and I would be more than happy to take additional responsibilities, and I would be happy to manage one team and relieve some of the burden that you're facing, so you can focus on more important things. So you map kind of like the challenge and the problems with also your career aspirations and growth. That works the best way. That works the best way, and it's kind of like a win-win situation for both.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're getting that experience, aren't you? So when you come a few months later to your promotion cycle, you can say to your manager, I've been doing it for X months, helping you out. And your manager is in a position to say to their manager, or to whatever review board you've got, yeah, I've got evidence. They've been doing it. We can see the results, and we can see that they have the skills. They've proven it. You make it a lot easier for them to do it. But you also mentioned becoming the go-to person or the expert. What's kind of your advice on how you build and demonstrate that expertise?
Yeah, I recommend for everyone who wants to grow in their career, especially to lead roles, from to staff, to team lead, tech lead, to engineering manager, you need to be known for something. You need to develop a reputation in a certain, either for a project, either domain, or a specific technology, because that gives you obviously a good amount of credibility, but then also it gives you the visibility that we have been talking about before, because everyone thinks a lot differently about you when you are the go-to person for something. People are asking you questions. You are having presentations either on local meetups, on learning sessions inside a company, and you're sharing that knowledge with others, and you're evangelizing it throughout the company. That gives a lot of visibility to a senior leadership, executive level as well. And the more you the great job you're doing that, the more chances and more opportunities you're gonna have in your career. And you can do really really simple. You can do a really simple thing, like for example, like Jordan Kotler. He created a Slack channel, which was like front end tips, and he was sharing daily front end tips on Slack in terms of how to be more productive, how to get a better front end developer. And what happened was that also other people chimed in and started to share daily tips. So he was kind of like the initiator, and that got him to be promoted to a senior software engineer. So you want to pick something that you're already doing. I became the go-to for React, for example. When I was working for React, I became the go-to for Angular. When I was working with Angular, something that you're already working with, it's kind of natural for you to get better at. And share knowledge with others. As soon as you do this, people will start asking more questions to you, and you will naturally kind of grow to become that person.
So the natural objection that most people have to that is, but I'm not an expert at X.
Mm.
You kind of hinted at that, Gregor, and you don't need to be, do you?
Yeah, yeah. You're never you're never an expert enough. How to say, you're never a perfect expert. You're always learning, So the intention is what matters, right? And we both know that. And if you have the right intentions, if you want to help others to get better, if you want to make others' lives easier, that's more than enough, So we are all learning new things, and at the same time, when you're sharing knowledge, you're also learning. So it's a win-win situation for you and everyone else. And now you don't need to be the best. You don't need to be on a core React core team in order to share knowledge about React in your company.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, Gregor. And the other thing you mentioned was that people come in there and start asking questions. And all those questions are a great opportunity for you to learn, because you'll look at them, you'll think about them, you may know the answer, you'll explain it. The explanation might not get understood, so you'll have to clarify your explanation. Or you might realize there's a gap in your knowledge, and you'll go away and fill that gap. So it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, doesn't it? The more questions you get, the more you go and learn, the more of an expert you become by starting to behave a bit like an expert. So you don't have to have the expertise, you just need to have the passion and the curiosity and the willingness to become the expert. Then you start acting that way. As we say, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy like flywheel, so it helps you grow quicker yourself.
Exactly.
We touched a little bit a moment ago on managing up as well. So how important is managing up? What tips would you have for somebody to become better at managing up?
Yeah, managing up can be the difference between you having a great time at work or having the worst time at work. So you can't. Well, one of the big misconceptions is that people might think that they can change the manager, but the thing is that you can't actually change your manager. They are who they are, and it will be really hard for them to become a totally different person. I made that mistake in my career when I had a manager that I got along really, really well. But then that manager left, and then another manager came who was a totally different person, totally different ways of working, and we didn't get along so well. I would do a lot differently if I would in that situation once again. So you wanna make sure that you are collaborating with your manager. You build as good relationship as possible, good working relationship as possible. You're not here to change your manager, and you won't be able to do that. That's one of the biggest things. And if you manage up correctly, even if a manager, if you don't get along with them, you do your best to get into the good state where you have a decent working relationship, and that is going to make your life easier at work, and also your team's life easier at work. It's going to be get easier to get stuff done, mutual understanding, and so on. At the end of the day, you want to put your best foot forward, and yeah, if you do that, there's gonna be good times for you at work. If you don't focus on that, then it's gonna be a lot harder, especially if you have a manager that is not so prone. How we call it, like a good manager.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. It's very hard to change anyone, whether that's your partner, your family, somebody you meet on the street. It's very hard to change other people. And we're better off in a lot of times looking at ourselves, and because we're in full control of ourselves, we can change ourselves. So we don't have to become somebody we don't like. We don't have to compromise our values, but we can change our behaviors far more easily than we can change our manager. So as you say, we can adapt. We can try and understand them. We can try and be empathetic to their approach, to their hopes and dreams that are different, and try and find the best possible relationship we can have with our manager so we can all be successful and collaborate.
Yeah, what I wanted to just add to that is, the same thing we talked before is, as soon as everyone has problems, and even if you don't get along with your manager, if you are going to be proactively finding out problems they're having and put your best foot forward to resolve them, it's going to make any relationship a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. We all have pains and worries and stuff. If you can help somebody release some of those, it's always going to improve the relationship, isn't it? And same for teammates. So you talk as well in the course about collaboration. It's much the same, really, isn't it? As you're maybe not managing up, but you're dealing with your peers. So any tips then on how to collaborate and collaborate effectively with the rest of your team?
Yeah, being a team player, I would say these days is mandatory. You can't build great software inside of an organization if you have individualists inside your team. So you need to have people that are going to help others, that are going to be, always trying to make others around them better. And being a team player is something that I found is not that easy for especially for engineers. But you need to learn it. You need to get better at it. I had, how to say, I was quite happy in terms of, like, I developed being a good team player over my teenage years growing up, and also as a kid, because I was always playing a lot of, like, basketball. I was also playing competitive basketball at that time, and I was always part of the team. You can't win a basketball game if you're just being individual, if you're just trying to make all the shots, right? It doesn't work like that. You need to be extremely, extremely amazing at it if that's going to to work, right? Um, so I learned that you need to help others, you need to make others around them better. We had that, and also playing video games. I was playing a lot of video games growing up, especially in my teenage years. I'm not maybe too proud of that, like playing like 5 to 6 hours daily video games. But I played with a team of people, and we played it versus other teams, right? So that kind of gave me that team oriented mindset, and I learned a lot by doing that. We were playing. Let's call it also competitively back then, and we were playing 5-on-5. It was FPS games. The most game we played was Call of Duty. Um, so yeah, that was a big thing for me, and I learned a lot about it with that. But yeah, if you haven't done a lot of such activities in your life, I recommend finding a group activity at this time. uh, you know, try to either play a certain game, or play a certain board game. Do some sports together with others, um, and so on. You also asked about how can you collaborate well, how can you make how can you work well with others. Focus on empathy, helping others, achieving team goals, that is something that is always going to go a long way. Your individual task is not as important as the success of the team. And if you always think of that way, you're going to have a good time. And one of the great things I also suggest, and that is one tip that I can share, is try to solve a problem that nobody wants to. You may hear some recurring issues inside your team, inside the organization. Maybe people are postponing that because it's very, how to say, maybe it's a tough problem. Maybe it's something that nobody wants to touch. Maybe a piece of a legacy code, or maybe it's a very boring task or something like that. You do something for the team, and you solve that problem, and you put your effort in it to make everyone's lives easier and better, and everyone is going to appreciate that.
Those little points of friction are some of my favorite for when I'm a manager of a team. Those are things that I like to tackle personally because it gives you a chance to stay hand-on, do a bit of code. Still, I'm a software engineer because I enjoy doing that. So it's a chance to do that,
Yeah.
but also they're off the critical path. If you get interrupted because you've got meetings and other things, you're not holding up the rest of the team, you're not blocking people. So they're quite fun things for managers as well. But as you say, removing that friction from your team really helps, doesn't it? And it's a good way. On the team sports aspect, somebody mentioned it to me, or I've read about it in a newsletter the other day, the comparison to music. Go and play a musical instrument in a band. And you can't have a band, and it's terrible if you don't collaborate. If you're not all in time with each other, you're not all playing in the same key, it will sound atrocious.
Exactly.
It won't be fun. So really emphasizes that collaboration and being together.
You need to have a feel for others, and when are they playing, when they are starting, and so on, and you need to jump in at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about working collaboratively together, isn't it? If you go off and pull in a different direction, it all falls apart quite quickly. So another part of the course that you talk about is how to become business and product minded. This is something that really resonates with me because I've highlighted throughout my career to people that we don't like code. Yes, we do like code, but that's not the focus of the job. The focus of the job is we're working in an organization. That organization has an issue to solve, or that business wants to make money, so we're building a product to do that. So the focus of what we do is we solve that issue. We enable that solution that can be solved. And yes, quite often as we're software engineers, we fulfill that by writing code, but writing code is not the goal. It's a mechanism to achieve that. So I've talked a lot about understanding the business value, understanding what the goals of the business are. How do you approach it? What are your tips that you give people to become business or product focused?
Yeah, it's all about changing the mindset first, right? And you need to understand that engineering is not here without a business. So if the business is not doing well, there's not going to be any engineering as well. So we are all here to provide business value and also delight our customers, get more customers, have happy users, because happy users are going to promote our product, and so on. So you need to think that way. And again, that kind of mindset comes from either working on a freelance project, or building your own project, building your own company, building a certain application that you want to monetize. You learn the pain points that way, right? But for example, if you're an engineer, and if you get assigned like a certain problem that maybe the company is having, organization is having, maybe a new feature, right? The worst thing you can do is just go straight into code, right? And just try to develop it. But maybe that may be our first instinct because we are problem solvers, and we may think like, hey, okay, that is going to take just 5 minutes to solve it. In reality, it never takes 5 minutes. But also at the same time, you shouldn't do this, right? You should always try to understand the why behind it, try to understand the motivation behind it. What is the pain point that we are trying to solve, right? And that is the business-oriented, product-oriented mindset that you should have as engineer. Not go straight into building, but really see how you can map this solution to the larger problem that the organization is having, the business is having. How can this problem that you're going to solve get us more customers, get us more users, help the business to be more successful? And if you do this, that's where you're going to provide a lot of impact. And a lot of times, the first solution that may come to your mind is not going to be the best one. So ask as many questions as possible. That is going to be the first thing. What you should do to get better understanding of the business, of the product. Why are we building this thing? Ask this to your product manager. Ask this to the stakeholders. What is actually pain points that we are solving? What is the business value behind it? How can we increase the user experience by delivering this feature? What is this going to? How is this going to help our customers, our users, to get more done in less amount of time, to solve their pain points? Start always with that. That is the best thing. The more questions you ask, the more understanding you're gonna get. And overall, what I also recommend is, if you want to get better at being product minded and being business minded, you need to talk with other people across the organization, across the business. Talk with the marketing managers, talk with sales managers, talk with product managers, talk with designers, talk with maybe with compliance managers. Everyone can give you some insight of their pain points that they might have, that they might have, and you can potentially solve them. And that is going to be exactly what is going to provide value across the organization, and so on. Obviously, you need to get better at domain knowledge to understand the industry that you're working with. You wanna know exactly, for example, if you're building a payment processor, you need to understand how payment processor works in general. Why do we need them? What is the actual business logic behind it? Why are we building it in the first place? What are the competitors doing? What other payment processes are available in the market? How can we get better than others? And as soon as you start thinking that way, you will start thinking of, making your technical solutions also accommodated to those pros that maybe other competitors don't have. And you may structure your data differently. You may structure your models differently. You may structure your tables a lot differently. You may use different technologies because you understand the domain a lot better. So yeah, that's very, very impactful.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. And to tie that back to our original conversation, the power drill, if the person in the shop asks why and really talk to you and understand you, what you're trying to solve, they'll sell you the right power drill, they'll sell you the right solution, or maybe they'll sell you a different tool that's more appropriate. So yeah, understanding that why is incredibly powerful, isn't it? And you make sure we build the right solution. You also mentioned get to know the salespeople, the product owners, the marketing people. Spotify has a great blog post on this where they recommend, I think once a month, pairing with non-engineers, as they put it. So go and, pair with somebody in the marketing team, get to understand what they do, get to an understanding of what concerns they face. And I've seen this work very well in more product-focused companies where you go and pair with somebody from customer success or from technical support. And it's something that I did partly by accident early in my career, in that the technical support people sat a meter away from me, just the other side of my monitor, and I could hear their technical support calls, and I could hear when they were getting people moaning about this, that, and the other issue. So I got to hear all those calls, and I could hear repeated patterns. And then I got to the point where I could start helping them by going, I've heard you have 5 calls on that today, and you had 5 or 6 calls on it yesterday. Let me just see if we can put a solution in place that solves that problem. Or, we're losing a lot of customers because of that. Let's do something about it. So pairing with those non-technical or, people outside engineering can be so very, very, very valuable. I've taken up a lot of your time, Gregor. So to close off, you gave a great example of Jordan earlier and how he's progressed and what he did with creating the Slack channel for end tips. Have you got another great example of somebody that has grown himself from engineer into a lead role and what they did?
Yeah, you obviously know my friend Caleb Milas. He grew from senior software engineer to tech lead, and then also to team lead. From tech lead to team lead, and his path to becoming a tech lead was a lot different than me becoming a team lead. And I will share just really quickly about how I became a team lead. And it was more kind of a accidental, more kind of a luck way. Because I wasn't very confident in terms of like which particular path I want to grow toward. And the thing was that at that time the company was going through restructuring, and we were forming new teams and we needed new team leads in order to take on the additional responsibility. And that's how I was offered the position of a team lead. So it was more kind of a luck based approach. But with Caleb, he became a tech lead from a senior software engineer. He went to the manager and said exactly like we were talking about, sharing his goals and aspirations. And there, his manager defined exactly, hey, what does he need to do in order to become a tech lead? So he needed to onboard new engineers. He needed to become the go-to for product technical questions. He needed to nail all the projects that he was working with. He needed to provide useful code reviews and technical specifications code reviews. He needed to get continue to get the respect and overall good credibility from senior leaders, from staff engineers, and so on. So that was kind of like the process that he took from around that took him around 7 months. And then after 7 months, he became a tech lead. And then, how he grew from tech lead to team lead was then what really, really connects really well with what we were talking about was with, he saw that his manager was having, was managing too many different teams. And he saw that his manager doesn't have a lot of time. So he said to his manager, hey, I want to help you to relieve some of the time from you, and I would be happy to manage one team so you can focus on other teams and more important things that you're doing. So that's how he became the team lead, and at that time. And also I can connect this story with my my growth from team leads to engineering manager as well, which was kind of like similar, which was my manager left, so the engineering manager position was available, and my manager had a lot on their plate, so they needed to fill this position until a new person was hired. So I automatically went to my manager of the manager and said that, hey, I would be happy to take on more responsibilities, and I would be happy to take on this role. And yeah, after 3 days, I got then good news that I was becoming an engineering manager. So it was the same that we were talking about, a win-win situation. I took additional responsibilities, and also my manager was able to focus on different things, on more important things. So those are the two examples that I like to share. And I think it's kind of like realistic to a lot of different examples that maybe others are also then having inside their company's organizations.
Two great examples. Thank you, Gregor. I kind of can't help feeling like you're selling yourself short there by saying that you were lucky. If you've been going through and doing all the things you talked about, that you're already doing it freelance, you're working to promote yourself, you're building that credibility, becoming the go-to person first on React and then on Angular. That's not luck. That's when preparation meets opportunity, isn't it? You've been creating your own surface area of luck and building that opportunity and doing all the things you talk about.
Yeah, I was doing all the right things, but I wasn't sure where I want to grow. Right, that's what I was doing wrong. So I was building credibility. I had a successful project inside a company. I was building good relationships inside a company as well. I was known to be kind of a great teammate, colleague. I also worked with a team that was with a totally different time zone than me, and I was fine with it. So yeah, I did a lot of things right, but if you don't share where you want to grow and what are your aspirations and goals, it's gonna be hard for the manager then also to put you in that position as well. I would say it was kind of like luck, and also at the same time I was doing good work. So I think I would eventually get some opportunity, but I think it may be a little bit later down the road. It became sooner, and that was I'm grateful for that. I wouldn't be where I am at the moment if I wouldn't grew at that time. I'm grateful for that I also took that opportunity, and then after it was quite a fast progression then from team lead all the way to head of engineering, VP engineering, and then CTO. So yeah, as soon as you have some new things and new things to learn, new challenges to attack, I'm especially like that. Then I get very driven, motivated to kind of get better.
Awesome. Walking the walk. Thank you very much for your time, Gregor. Been a pleasure talking to you. Any final thoughts to share before we wrap up?
Thank you for having me, John. Yeah, I would just like to say that leadership is a mindset, and we all can be leaders in our own way. Even if you're a junior engineer, mid-level engineer, you can lead in your own way. There's many ways that you can help others. You are a team player. You make others around you better. You share your knowledge, and you don't need to be an expert in everything. Always have that in mind.
Awesome. Thank you, Gregor.